AX. Don't call me Parker because that's not my. That is the last name of the man that enslaved my ancestors and held them in bondage, torture, brutality, and inhumane conditions. Uh, with that being said, I hope everyone's having a blessed Thursday. I hope everyone's having a successful, productive, inspirational new year so far. Uh, Coming to you today to share today's history brief in history, today in history, which is the 13th, 1957, in Montgomery, Alabama. The congregations of 4 black churches gather for Sunday services 3 days after their churches and 2 homes are bombed. Now, this is something that was very, very common and popular, I guess you can say, back in the mid 1900s, early 1900s. Pretty much ever since slavery, quote unquote, was abolished, um, there has been an abundance of events and tragic events that have plagued the black community. And when it comes to their businesses being burned to the ground, their churches, their homes, this is something that was kind of, it was like a scare tactic, to threaten black families and to make black families feel, I guess, unwanted, and so this is something that would, often happen, especially in the deep South, in the southern states where, slavery was the way of life for centuries. So it was nothing, it was nothing for a mob of men to go to anyone's home or anyone's business and burn it to the ground. Even with the Wall Streets in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the early 1900s, even right in Durham, North Carolina, the Wall Streets that were actually burnt to the ground purely off of jealousy, purely off of hate, purely just the amount of success and prominent businesses that were flourishing in those times were really making a lot of people feel some type of way. We'll just leave it at that. I don't really know how you're supposed to really recover or rebuild after such a hateful thing to be done to your home or to your church or to your business. Coming from a place where we were already trying to find common ground and trying to find a foundation to build on and to stand on and to somehow create a life for ourselves after leaving us or after being released from slavery. Most slaves that were coming from the South really never left. They really had nowhere to go. A lot of people ended up going right back to the plantation that they were quote unquote freed from, and that was just all they knew. That was their life. Sharecropping was something that kept a lot of black people stagnant and in one place and really not able to do much, because of lack of resources and just lack of everything. When you're a slave, your slave master is not going to teach you how to not be a slave. If that makes sense. You're only going to know how to benefit someone else. You're only going to know how to do for someone else, and with those tools and that really doesn't leave much room for progress or a flourishing life outside of a plantation. But a lot has been inflicted on the black community. Not just the physical violence and brutality, not just the physical torture of things, but also the psychological and mental and emotional things side of things have also plagued the black community. Um, once slavery was ended, no one sat the slaves down and had group therapy. No one sat the slaves down and said, "Hey, let's try and rehabilitate what you just went through for centuries and try and figure out just where you are emotionally and can you even function in this world as a regular human being." No one did those things. So it was really rough for a lot of black families, men, women, and children. Um, Most children ended up in the system even early on. There were plenty. First of all, most children after slavery were not with their parents. I want to make that very clear, and I don't want that to be misconstrued at all. Most children were not with their biological parents. I want that to be very, very, very clear. Um, so with that being said, most of these children were already living on plantations and already being built and programmed and orchestrated to be a slave and nothing else, nothing more. Um, so if you take that and put it in account for generation after generation after generation of the same cycles and the same patterns, it really stems all from the same place. And it's like when you're pretty much just put on your ass and you're free to go do whatever you want after just spending your whole life on a plantation. It's kind of hard to think about. It must be a scary thing to think about, especially if you have a wife and kids. Very, very, very few slaves were allowed to marry and have their own families. And like I said, even that didn't really matter much, because if it came to it, your slave master can easily sell you, your wife, or your kids to another plantation like it was nothing. And before you know it, this is how your family was broken up. Before you know it, your kids were parentless, and before you know it, you had no idea. If you ever go watch the movie Django, that movie was in a way portraying what it was like to lose a family member, a loved one, and then having to go search for her or him if you had the opportunity to, or even the guts to do it. Um, Burning homes and burning churches was that was the surface of what was happening to black people once slavery was abolished and prior. But I keep emphasizing the aftermath of slavery because of just how crazy life was for black people even after slavery. That's what I don't think many people understand. It's not like life all of a sudden got better or changed for us in 1865 when slavery was ended. If anything, it got worse. If anything, it got crazier. If anything, we had to watch ourselves even more so. Lynchings were at an all-time high. Jim Crow. There was literally black codes. There were literally laws made for black people to control their whereabouts, their actions, what they're able to do, how much money they're able to make, where they're able to live. It's like it was all orchestrated and programmed and designed to keep black people at the bottom, controlled, manipulated, and brainwashed. So without the tools and the knowledge being implemented or instilled in us, or even having the resources to get the tools, and this is why so many black people fled north. This is why so many that had the chance to leave and get up and leave the South fled north to, seek a better life, better opportunities for their families and themselves, and just a safer environment, just a safer way of life. There was parts of the South that you really took a risk and you were really jeopardizing your life being. There were cities and towns that had things called sundown laws. Sundown laws were if you were black and you were caught outside when the sun went down, you more than likely were going to lose your life, and brutally. and violently. And sorry about that. And this meant tragedy and heartbreak and heartache and complete chaos for the black community when this would happen. Lynchings were so common and so normal at a certain point in time in history that people would actually have gatherings and picnics and reunions after church as if it was a church brunch, and people would actually watch live men, women, and children be lynched, burned, riddled with bullets. It's kind of hard to stomach and to fathom just how brutal black people have been done and how brutal black people have been treated here on soil and here in a country that were built on our backs and on our shoulders. There's so much detail that would honestly almost not even make you you wouldn't even do half the things you hear being done to black people over history of time. You wouldn't even do those things to a dog. You know, you wouldn't even do those things to an animal. Some of the things that have been done to blacks over the course of time in history from our oppressors. The only way to know where you're going is to know where you came from. And the only way to know that is to learn your history and to learn about yourself. And learn as much as you can about yourself and learn as much as you can about where you come from and who you are. Because no one's going to tell you. No one's going to tell you. And it's something that it's been set up this way and designed this way to keep you brainwashed and to keep you asleep, to keep you down. There's so many ways that can be, there's so many things that can be created and prominent amongst the blacks if we actually unified and actually educated ourselves and actually humbled ourselves and actually seeked help and seeked knowledge and seeked wisdom, you know. But it has to start, you know, with us, and it has to start within our communities. It has to start within the household. Nothing's going to happen overnight. That's, you know, that's a given. But it's something that we can definitely build towards, something that we can definitely build on. I think step one is definitely focusing on our children, focusing on the youth, kind of trying to flip the tide a bit, you know, flip the script a little bit and break away from the normal. And the normal has just been tragedy, you know. That's all our history has been, is tragedy. And to this day, it's tragedy. We either bring in tragedy on ourselves, or tragedy is being inflicted on us by our oppressors, as it's always been. But now we're doubling up the chaos on ourselves with our own actions and our own dysfunctional ways, you know. But that's all for today. I will be back with more history, knowledge, and words. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate everyone's support on my channel and with everything else. Stay tuned for more workout videos. Stay tuned for more history videos. I will have more coming on that, and more coming on. I want to promote. I will be putting more supplements and herbs and holistic living and ways of life for that as well soon. So just bear with me on that. But all right, everyone have a blessed rest of the day, blessed rest of the week and weekend. Please stay safe, stay healthy, hydrate. I can't emphasize that enough. Hydration is such an important thing It's such an important thing that we take for granted every day. And if you think about it, the world is 75% water. The world is 75% water. Our bodies is 75, three-quarters water. So it's hard to think about that, that we don't intake enough water every day. I myself even slack sometime, and I should be taking in more. Water actually promotes better moods, better feelings. It actually flushes your system out, detoxes you. Uh, it's amazing how much water actually, something as simple and as cliche as water actually does for the body. Now, not all water is the same. That's another thing that I try to emphasize to people. Not all water is the same. There's tap water, there's spring water, there's well water. Any type of water that comes from the earth, that comes from the ground, is the best water for you. If you can start to transition to spring water, if there's a natural spring somewhere where you can go fill up a jug, go do that. If you can buy the spring water in the store, I've noticed lately that the spring water has been clearing off the shelves. And I feel like that's because people are becoming aware, number one, of how important water is, and number two, how important the right water is. There's water that you shouldn't even ingest. There's water that you shouldn't even, put in your body. And this is the same water that's in most of the black hoods and black communities across the country, and it's been that way. Flint is just a scratching the surface of how many inner cities have bad water quality that is being used by black and brown communities all throughout the country. We'll get on that another video. But hydrate, take care of yourself, stop putting your health in the hands of people that don't want the best for you. It's simple as that. Take care of yourself, take care of your family, do what you know is right. And don't always follow the media. There's a lot going on the radio. There's a lot going on in these commercials. There's a lot going on in the TV and movie. Sometimes you kind of just got to stick with what stick with what you know, and provide that best information and that best service to your family, your loved ones, first and foremost. Okay. All right. With that being said, everyone take care. Much love. Peace.